My sister wants my dress before graduation, and my parents force me to stay home. But my sister throws a tantrum over the gift from my grandmother after finding out because she thinks it's unfair. Hello, everyone. I'm a 17-year-old girl, and I need advice about something. My prom was a week ago, and it has caused many problems in my life. I'm really lost and don't know what to do, so I came to Reddit to ask for help. Please be patient because this might be a bit long. I was supposed to go to my prom a week ago, but I couldn't because of my parents, both 40 years old. I had everything prepared and their permission to go, but at the last moment the plans changed, and once again I became the scapegoat of the family. They forced me to stay home while my sister went to the prom. My sister, Casey, 19 years old, is what many call the golden child of the family. I have no idea why my family idolizes her, but they do. Casey and I had many problems growing up because she hated having a younger sister. She used to yell at me regularly as well as at my parents, saying we ruined her life by making her the older sister. For some strange reason, my parents didn't see a problem with her behavior and just kept trying to appease her. How did they do it? By depriving me of things. Throughout my 17 years of life, I've seen my sister get everything she wants just by whining. Whenever I got something nice, my sister would throw a fit and I'd be forced to give it to her. On rare occasions when my parents refused to give her what I had, Casey would end up destroying my things or even resorting to physical violence. My parents' solution was to apologize to Casey while telling me to lock myself in my room and stay out of her way so she'd feel less neglected. I don't understand why Casey feels neglected since she gets more love and attention from my parents, but I guess it's never enough for her. She simply wouldn't stop making my life miserable. I always stayed quiet because I had no one on my side. From a young age, my parents instilled in me that I had to give in to Casey and let things go because Casey had it hard. They refused to punish her for destroying my things or hitting me whenever she lost control. They always had an excuse for the things Casey did to me. Complaining to my parents was useless, so I eventually stopped. I just tried to stay invisible and focused on studying hard to get good grades. My only goal in life is to get away from this place, especially far from my parents and my sister. I really hope to stay invisible and avoid problems with them again, but my horrible sister had to come and ruin everything. An hour before the prom, Casey came into my room with my parents and told me to give her my prom dress. Why? Because she wanted to wear my dress to the prom. My spoiled sister didn't manage to graduate twice, and this was her prom. You'd think she'd take advantage of all this special treatment to improve, but no. She was busy partying and wasting time on the internet because she never faced the consequences of failing her classes. She literally lives like a princess. My parents bought her a prom dress that cost $2,000. Again, this was her third prom, for God's sake. Do you know how much they spent on my dress? Nothing. That's right, they didn't even buy me a dress. I knew this would happen, so I was smart enough to save some money working in the neighborhood. I managed to buy my prom dress, although Casey wasn't happy about it. I seriously don't know what her problem was. Mom and Dad didn't pay for my dress because she asked for the entire budget to be spent on hers. When I bought my own dress, she didn't say much. I thought it wouldn't be an issue. Well, it became an issue because an hour before the prom, she demanded my dress. Why? Because she liked it more, so she deserved it, of course. What about her dress? Well, she returned it and spent the money on new makeup. What did my parents do in this situation? They handed my dress over to Casey while I stayed home. Apparently, she deserved my dress and deserved to go to prom, but I didn't. I don't understand their logic. Anyway, I didn't argue much. The moment my parents sided with Casey, I gave up. Fighting with them would only get me punished. I didn't want that. I called my date and informed him that I wouldn't be going. Then I stayed in my room and cried until my makeup was ruined. I already had my makeup done. I just needed to put on the dress and walk out the door. But Casey had other plans for me. I cried, skipped dinner, and even skipped breakfast, but my parents didn't care. I heard them while Casey kept telling them over and over how great her prom was. Honestly, I stopped caring about everything because I was used to it. But 2 days later, my paternal grandmother, 66 years old, called me and asked why I hadn't sent her pictures of my prom. Well, I told her the truth because I wasn't going to lie to her. She was absolutely furious for me and assured me she'd talk to my parents about it. I panicked and begged her not to because I knew they'd punish me if they found out I told her the truth. I started pleading with my grandmother not to confront them because it would only make things worse for me. My grandmother was a bit surprised, but she listened to me. Then she invited me out and took me to my favorite restaurant to eat. My parents grumbled about it, but they couldn't say no to her. My grandmother really surprised me and gifted me a new MacBook. She was sad to hear what happened and thought I deserved something special, so she bought me a new laptop. She knew I had never had a new device because I always got what my sister discarded. I tried to refuse it, but she simply wouldn't listen. I was happy to have the new laptop, but I knew Casey would throw a tantrum if she found out, and that's exactly what happened. When I got home, she started yelling at me. My parents told me to give her the laptop, but this time I refused. I simply went to my room and locked myself in. It's been 5 days, and Casey is making a scene. My parents have been trying to convince me to give her the laptop, but I don't want to. They're trying to use the logic of my house, my rules, but I won't give in. The only reason they haven't taken it is because I've been threatening to call my grandmother and tell her everything. But the harassment doesn't stop. I'm genuinely scared of my sister now, and I'm doing everything I can to stay away from her. I don't want her to hit me again. I also don't want to give up the laptop. I'm just so tired of giving up everything. I'm the one who has to constantly sacrifice, but my sister claims everyone is unfair to her. I'm so tired of this. I constantly live in anxiety, and it's really affecting my mental health. Final exams are coming up, so I have to study, but I can't focus on that either. The house is tense, and it won't change unless I give up the laptop. Edit. It's true that my grandmother only took me out to dinner and gave me a gift. She didn't do anything similar for my sister. My parents and sister feel it's unfair that I had a nice dinner and received a gift while my sister got nothing. My parents are somewhat afraid of my grandmother because she's a rather intimidating older lady, so they don't have the courage to confront her about this. The same goes for my sister. Casey knows my grandmother doesn't approve of her life choices or condone her behavior. In fact, my grandmother has practically put her in her place every time Casey has misbehaved in front of her. Over time, Casey has realized she needs to control her outburst when my grandmother is around. Many of you have asked why my grandmother never stepped in to defend me before. Well, there's a simple answer to that. She didn't know the whole truth about my situation. In fact, no one knows what happens in the house. They've seen some favoritism when we were little and confronted my parents about it, but my parents just started hiding things instead of improving their behavior. I'm always under strict orders not to tell anyone anything. They've threatened to punish me or even kick me out of the house if I tell anyone. There has been a lot of gaslighting and manipulation by my parents. I was too young and naive to realize it in the past, but now I think I'm starting to understand. Additionally, I'm too busy being cautious not to cross paths with my sister or have her hit me. She's come to my room and banged on my door several times. Thank God I always lock my door from the inside. All right, I get it, guys. I need to talk to someone and tell them what's going on. I've made some decisions, which I'll tell you about later. First, I need to vent a little. Your messages have really overwhelmed me, and I don't know how to thank you for caring so much about me. There was one troll who told me I should end my life because no one likes me. Well, that's not going to happen. Many of you don't understand why I never talked about my parents and Casey until now. That shows you have good parents and not manipulative ones like mine. From the beginning, my parents instilled a lot of fear in me about what would happen if I spoke to extended family. They used to tell me horrible stories about foster homes whenever I complained about their favoritism. I was barely 10 or 11 years old at the time. I was terrified of foster homes and was pretty much convinced I'd end up there if I told anyone what was happening. As I grew older, they would punish me and take away my electronic devices after every argument. Sometimes when their favoritism showed in public and people confronted them about it, they punished me. I still don't know why, as I wasn't responsible for their actions. I think you can tell that I'm the personification of the word scapegoat. Believe me, I wish things weren't this way. I wish I were exaggerating and that my family wasn't as bad as I'm describing, but it is what it is. Some of you truly understand my situation and have felt my sadness. I've tried to pretend that my parents' favoritism doesn't affect me, but that's not true at all. I long for their love and affection as much as any other child. It's hard to watch them favor my sister so much. Yes, it's true that she didn't want a sister, but I didn't ask to be born either. I don't understand why her problems are taken seriously while mine aren't. I've been a good daughter. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I've been in bad moods too, but mostly because I feel extremely unwanted. I've been an outstanding student and tried to make my parents proud, but they never praise or celebrate my achievements because it would upset my sister. It's a constant cycle. I hope they'll show me affection, they reject me for my sister, and then I feel sad again. None of my friends have parents like mine. Their siblings truly care about them, even if they fight occasionally. For years, I've felt so envious of them. I hate that I mean so little to my family. I've tried to be a good daughter and make my parents proud, but I can see that I've just become a big doormat for everyone. Thank you for showing me what's been happening in my life. You're right, I should talk to someone and I will. I'm going to call my grandmother and tell her everything in detail. She's been pressing for more information anyway. I think she can already guess that something is terribly wrong. I don't think I can avoid her for much longer, so I've decided to tell her and everyone else what my parents and sister have been doing. I'm tired of protecting them. I'm tired of begging for their love and attention. Now I need to take care of myself since it's clear my parents don't care about me at all. I already sent my grandmother a text and I'm waiting for her to respond. I can't call her now because my parents might overhear me talking to her. I want to expose them, but I also want to do it as discreetly as possible. Thank you so much for showing me that I was being abused. You really gave me the push I needed to be honest with the rest of my family. I'll definitely come back with an update when I can, but it might take a while, so please don't hold it against me. I'm back with an update. I don't know if I should call this a happy or sad update. Some things worked out well for me, while others definitely didn't. I'm at my grandmother's house now, and will be living here from now on. I think you can already imagine that something big has happened. I'll try to give as much information as possible. I'm sorry if I forget anything. I never thought I'd have to keep updating and that things would get so bad in my life. But here we are. After my last update, I ended up meeting with my grandmother. She immediately agreed to a private meeting and picked me up the next day. She didn't tell my parents she was coming, only that she needed help shopping and wanted me to accompany her. My parents were hesitant to let me go again, but they can't say no to my grandmother. I saw Casey asking my grandmother if she could come with us, but my grandmother said she wanted to take me. I already knew things would be bad at home once I got back, but by then, I'd already decided I wasn't going to stay silent anymore. When my grandmother and I finally sat down to talk, she immediately told me not to hold anything back. She had been extremely worried about me and had started noticing how distant I'd become from my parents and sister. My grandmother and several other family members had noticed things but hadn't spoken up because they had no proof. So my grandmother practically begged me to tell her if something was wrong. I'm not gonna lie and say I stayed strong while exposing my family. It was like a dam broke, and I started crying as I poured out my feelings. I told her everything. Please don't ask me for details because I can't write it all out. Things were really bad at home. I'd been excusing and hiding so much of my sister's insane behavior. My parents never did anything and scared me into staying silent. I was a vulnerable and scared child who kept quiet, but that day, I told my grandmother everything. She listened and cried with me. Thank God the cafe we went to was almost empty. The staff was extremely kind and even gave us free desserts. No one judged me or gave us looks, so I was able to tell my grandmother everything. I still remember how light and relieved I felt after saying it all. It was truly liberating. My grandmother comforted me and assured me that I'd never have to face that abuse again. It was nice to know she was on my side. She started calling my aunts and uncles to tell them what was happening. Meanwhile, my parents and even my sister were sending me threatening messages about how I needed to convince my grandmother to take Casey shopping and buy her a gift. Anyway, after my grandmother talked to everyone, she told me she would take me home to collect my things. She said I'd be staying with her from then on. As we headed back home, I was already dreading the confrontation with my parents. Sure, my grandmother was with me, but I was terrified of what would happen. After all, I had done what my parents told me to never do. I told the truth. When we got to the house, my parents had already received furious calls from my aunts and uncles who had been informed of the situation. So when my grandmother and I walked into the house, they already knew I had exposed them. They started yelling at me but froze when my grandmother stepped in. My grandmother told me to go pack while she spoke to my parents. I heard her start yelling at them while I hurried to pack my things. This is when things got bad. I'd forgotten Casey was still in the house. Imagine my surprise when she stormed into my room and started screaming like a lunatic. I knew talking or arguing with her would be stupid, so I kept packing while she yelled about how I had ruined everything by opening my mouth. When she saw I wasn't paying attention, she literally grabbed me by the hair and punched me in the face. I was pretty stunned and don't remember much of what Casey was saying, but she kept screaming and cursing at me for talking to my grandmother. By the time she was about to hit me again, my grandmother and parents came into the room. My grandmother pulled me out while my parents tried to restrain Casey. Later, my grandmother took me to the hospital and documented my injuries. It's been over 24 hours since that happened. I couldn't update before because my face was sore, and I was mentally drained to do anything. I slept like a baby at my grandmother's house, though that was probably due to the painkillers they gave me. My sister basically broke my nose. She's much taller and heavier than me, so she did some serious damage. Don't worry, everything is documented. I'm still not sure what to do about it, but something needs to be done. My grandmother has been talking to my aunts and uncles before making a decision. My sister has gone completely silent, but my parents are flooding my phone with messages. They're basically blaming me for everything. They've been receiving a lot of criticism from the extended family, so they're accusing me of damaging their reputation. They haven't asked me to come back home, by the way. I guess they really don't care if I stay with them. They're more worried about their reputation and my sisters at this point. Guys, I am completely overwhelmed by the amount of love and kindness you have all shown me. I can't believe that strangers on the internet care so much about me when my own parents don't. The past few days have been incredibly difficult for me, but reading all your comments and messages has made me realize the magnitude of the abuse I had to endure. It's sad in a way you can't even imagine, but little by little, I'm overcoming it. A lot has happened since my last update. I know many of you have been waiting for an update, and I'm sorry it took so long. I was dealing with some things and had difficulties with my recovery, school, the police, and everything else. Some of you have asked why I didn't go to the police to report my family. Well, I was recovering from a traumatic event and was in a lot of pain, plus I'm a minor, so I'm not very familiar with the legal aspects. It was my grandmother who took charge of everything, along with my uncle. Don't worry, they did report the incident to the police. Casey was arrested, but my parents posted her bail as they always do. The case is still ongoing, so I won't be able to share too many details about it. It's likely that Casey will go to jail because this isn't the first or second time she's assaulted someone. My parents are also being charged with child neglect and endangerment. I don't know all the details right now since my uncle and grandmother are handling everything. I'm just focusing on my final exams and recovering my mental health. I have some good news. My injuries are healing well, though I had to endure the pain for 5 straight days. That wasn't fun at all. Anyway, I'm living with my grandmother for now. I'll turn 18 in 2 months, so there isn't much to worry about. It's not like my parents or anyone else will have any legal rights over me for much longer. Speaking of my parents, well, things aren't great on that front either. After everything settled down, I started feeling a lot of resentment toward them. My grandmother put me in therapy because she could see I was struggling. I've attended a few sessions, and I think this will be helpful for me in the long term. My parents tried to reach out to me again. At first, they said horrible things because I allowed my grandmother to report them and Casey, but after a while, they changed their tone and started apologizing. No, they didn't have a sudden change of heart or finally realized they should have loved me. They simply panicked over everything that's happening. By now, practically everyone we know is aware of what's been going on, and they're not happy about it. My parents are essentially being shunned by everyone they know. Even my extended family has practically abandoned them, as they can't believe how much my parents and sister abused me. My grandmother has firmly told my parents that neither they nor Casey will receive a cent of her inheritance. That must have panicked them, as my grandmother has significant savings left by my grandfather. It's pathetic that they only apologized when their finances were at risk. It's horrible, really, but slowly, it's starting not to matter to me anymore. The only reason I haven't blocked them is that my uncle said their messages could be used in court. Anyway, I don't let their words affect me, and I don't plan to forgive them. I'm genuinely happy that I'll soon be able to cut them out of my life completely. I have my grandmother and extended family, and they are enough. Even my prom date, now boyfriend, has been a great support for me. I've met his family, and they are so different from mine. Sometimes it hurts to know that everyone around me has such good parents. Anyway, this will be my last update for a while. I might come back and post a small update if things go well, but I won't be making any more posts or updates until the lawsuits are resolved. It's been 6 months, and I can't believe it. This will be a happy update. I know many of you have been waiting for this. I've received so many direct messages, and I'm so grateful that so many people care about me. I'm now in college and doing so much better than before. Time heals many things, you know? I'm so happy to share that I've improved both mentally and physically. I no longer have bruises, and the mental scars have faded too. I did pretty well on my final exams and got into college. I won't say the name of the place, but it's a pretty good one, guys. I'm a bit sad that I had to move away from my grandmother to stay in the dorms here, but I visit her when I can. She's only 4 hours away by car. Now, about my parents and sister. As I predicted, Casey ended up going to jail, but not for long. In fact, I'm pretty sure she'll be out next month. I've stopped worrying about her. I saw her in court and she didn't look very well. The court ordered a mental health evaluation for her, but I don't know what they found. I'm not very interested in knowing her diagnosis. I'm convinced she has a number of issues, but I don't want to hear about them. To me, she's dead. My parents, well, they were charged with child neglect and endangerment since I was still a minor when all that happened. Again, I don't know many details. No one went to jail, but they ended up paying a significant fine. I don't care that they didn't go to jail. Their reputation in the community is already ruined, and their golden child is being rejected by everyone. Not even their own family wants to be part of their lives now, so I think they're suffering enough. I have a restraining order against my sister, so she can't contact me even after she's out of jail. However, for some strange reason, I couldn't get a restraining order against my parents. Apparently, they don't pose a threat to me, so I didn't need one. I don't know why the courts didn't grant it, but since I don't have a restraining order against my parents, they've tried to contact me a few times. I immediately blocked those numbers because I have no interest in hearing them regret their actions, nor do I need evidence anymore. They had over 17 years to correct their horrible behavior, but only felt remorse when the ship started sinking. I don't see this as an apology or regret. I see it as an insult, and I don't want parents like that in my life. I can't say for sure how I'll feel in the future, but for now, I'm done with them forever. Anyway, I'd like to thank you all again for your time. I really needed to talk to someone, and you helped me so much. Before I wrap up this last update, let me say that I've taken your advice. I'll focus on my life now and stop worrying about my crazy family. I've taken the advice of some people to share everything that has happened with my parents, mainly because they haven't stopped trying to contact me. I didn't do it before because we were in the middle of legal proceedings and I didn't want that to be affected by a post. But now that it's over, I'm free to do so, and that's exactly what I've done. The response to that post has been overwhelmingly positive, with friends and acquaintances who had no idea what was happening with my parents reaching out. I've learned in therapy that this is normal because people who abuse and manipulate often show a different face to the rest of the world. The main goal of all this was to get my parents to stop trying to contact me, and I've achieved that. Mission accomplished. On the other hand, there's my sister. Jail hasn't done much to calm her violence or make her reflect. She didn't know I had moved out of my grandmother's house or that I was in college. For her, that was impossible because, according to her logic, I didn't deserve to go to college. Talk about projecting. So, she went to my grandmother's house to demand to talk to me. Things got a bit ugly, and my sister hit my grandmother, which enrages me deeply because I feel it's my fault that my grandmother ended up caught in the middle of all this. But my grandmother quickly reported her, and she's back where she came from. According to what my grandmother told me, this time she'll be there for a longer period than the first time. She has also filed for a restraining order against her. However, things didn't stop there as they escalated even further. My uncle was completely horrified that my sister had hit my grandmother, so he went to confront my father. I don't know who started it, but things got physical between my uncle and my father. Luckily, the police weren't involved. My uncle didn't deserve to go through that for defending my grandmother. I hope this will be the last of my updates because that would mean my sister hasn't attacked my grandmother again. As for me, I've already cut off all ties with them, so I don't expect to have to share anything directly related to me. I also hope not to have to report anything related to other family members. Lastly, it goes without saying that my parents are not invited to Thanksgiving or Christmas with the family, and well, my sister is quite busy at the moment to attend.